Welcome everyone to the staff training video on teaching swimming. Thanks for joining me today. I do apologize, this is kind of late, but I did find you a fun PowerPoint theme to enjoy while you're doing the slides with me. There we go. Okay, so for those of you who joined me for training that Friday night before the pool closed, you'll remember me talking about some of the most important things to remember when we teach. And chief amongst them are safety and fun. Tied for first place, both equally as important as the other. I just had to put this picture of this cute little guy in here. Fun starts with introducing yourself, and so does safety. The kids need to know your name, and you need to know theirs so you can call on each other for important rules or if anybody is in distress and needs assistance. Also, when we introduce ourselves and when we do so with a genuine smile and a look of interest and care, it helps our little ones feel safe. It helps our older ones feel engaged. So remember to introduce yourself and remember to do so in the most positive and exuberant way possible. We are going to discuss in this session, and I apologize, you might hear some meowing in the background because I have 4 cats who think that I should feed them early. Safety procedures and emergency protocols, logistics of sharing space, equipment, and communicating during teaching. A little bit about the Y Swim program, which is different, significantly different from the Life Saving Society program, and about expectations during swim lessons and the certification process. In fact, maybe I'll discuss the certification process immediately so I don't forget later, since I didn't make a dedicated slide for that. I do apologize for all the confusion about this. As most of you know, I've been working on this since August, trying to escalate the issue and get someone who has clearance to train and certify all of us in the Y program. And it's been a bit of a whirlwind. So I think the last email I released on this point was that we were going to charge ahead with our own Y adjacent set of swimming lessons because there were no other alternatives. And we took some videos of you guys teaching for evaluation at a later time. Finally, actually not long after I sent that email, an educator surfaced from the Muskoka area, and there has been a plan set in place for that person to complete my champion training online. So moving forward, I will be able to certify and recertify everybody in the Y program. In the meantime, while I'm completing the champion certification, which takes a while, she will be completing staff certifications this session. So there are 2 pathways. Pathway 1, if you already have a certification, not a YMCA certification. So Jack McKenna, you're already certified. You don't need to worry about it. But if you already have a Life Saving Society certification or a Red Cross certification for swim instructor or water safety instructor, then you can challenge the YMCA certification process. And essentially that means that I will evaluate your strokes, watch a lesson and fill out the evaluation form, and then submit it over to Erin, who will then sign off on your certificate. So fairly quick process. I don't want to make anybody nervous, so please just let me know what lesson you feel most comfortable teaching, and I will evaluate that one. I can absolutely do that in the coming week, probably, or the following week after that one, like last. Yeah. Let me know which lesson you would like me to evaluate, and I will do so. And I can also evaluate strokes at any time. I say do it once you're already wet in your lessons. If you teach with me, like on a Monday or a Wednesday, I'm also available on Friday evening for a short time. Just tell me you want your strokes evaluated once you're already wet, and I will do that for you. If you don't have a certification, then you have one extra step. So still, I would evaluate a lesson. Still, I would evaluate your strokes. And then you have to complete a few Zoom sessions, or maybe one Zoom session, I'm not clear, with the educator, Erin, to complete the training, and then she will sign off on your certificate. Regardless, everyone has to complete the online modules. So please, if you haven't done that yet, if you still are having any trouble accessing it, I think I have the certificates from maybe 2 of you. So I should have more than that. Again, Jack McKenna, not you guys. You already have your Y certifications, but almost everybody else. Please complete that. If you're still having trouble accessing it, then please escalate that to the help center and get that done. Everybody should be finished their full certification by the end of the session. Okay, so let's talk about safety, which is tied for our number 1 with fun. The main thing that I have noticed watching you guys, and this is super common with newer instructors or instructors who have been accustomed to a less structured format, is formations. I want everyone to remember that just because you're teaching doesn't mean that you're not guarding. So if you would not guard a group of individuals swimming around you like this, or back and forth and going behind you like this, or if you wouldn't guard on the deck with your back turned to the pool, then you should not be teaching in any of those positions either. Yes, certainly it's possible to swivel your head around as you teach, but it's not optimal. So I want to see formations like this in the pool. You're going to make a circle, then you're part of the rim or outside the circle, so you're keeping all your students in your line of sight. You need them to swim lengths back and forth or widths, then you're stepping off to the side, even if you're off on the deck or if you're in the water, so that you can continue to scan across the distance that your students are crossing and keep them all in your line of sight. If you are going to have them in a line traveling somewhere, so whether it's from one end of the pool to the other, or whether it is from the door pylon area to the teaching location on the deck, I want to see you behind that line of students. Or if you insist upon being in front of the line of students, then you should be moving backwards and facing them, so you can decide which is safest for you. So for instance, when I have a group that's transitioning to the deep end and I'm having them all swim down the length of the pool, and I'm worried maybe some of them might get a little bit panicked, I'm kind of on alert, then I often stay near the front of the line where the deep end is, but I'm facing the entire group so that whatever happens, I can instruct or intervene. Under absolutely no circumstances are you to leave your group unattended. So unattended means your group is in the pool or in the deck area during your lesson and you walk off to another area without them. So if my group is in the deep end, I can't say, everybody hold the wall, I'm going to run down to the other end of the pool and grab noodles. If I want to move far away from that class, I still need to keep my eyes on that class. I literally need to walk backwards. Makes a lot more sense to just bring them with me. Unattended means everybody sit out for a minute, I have to go to the bathroom. No, absolutely not. Everybody sit out of the pool for a minute, hold the wall, I have to go in the office and grab something. No, absolutely not. If you need to leave the deck for whatever reason, notify a fellow instructor that you need them to watch your class. That might involve moving your class to them, to the pool area or pool where they are. That might just involve them stepping out onto the deck so that they can watch both classes. I don't care, but make sure there is supervision for your class every single second. To do otherwise, you will be written up. So let's talk about emergency situations. Because the staffing situation is such that we do not always have a separate person on the deck who is without a class to teach. So sometimes, for example, Monday nights, I teach 2 classes in a row, and then I have almost an hour and a half of empty space while there are other instructors teaching classes. So for a little while, everybody's engaged in teaching classes, and then for a little while, there's deck support. On some nights, everyone's always engaged in teaching classes, and there's no separate deck support. I am doing what I can to remedy that situation. Surprisingly, not a lot of people want to do the job. So if you have deck support and you have any kind of situation, you feel you need to accompany a child to the bathroom, you shouldn't, because that's why we've asked the parents of ages 7 and under to remain on deck so they can handle that. Kids over the age of 8, I think, can manage to go to the washroom themselves. But anyways, if you have some minor issue, you need to leave the deck to go to the bathroom, you have a kid with a mild nosebleed, that happened just on Monday, and I think on Wednesday before that as well, just signal by clanging, or your deck support likely will already be on deck. Signal that you need assistance, that person will come over and assist you so that you can carry on with your lesson uninterrupted. If we don't have deck support, then as I say, either bring your class with you wherever it is you're going. God, don't bring them into the bathroom with you. But make arrangements for another instructor to supervise your class, or if you're going to get equipment or something, if you're going to get the flippers from the office, bring your class with you so that you are watching them. But in emergency situations where you have a major incident, if a single class member is going to take your attention, then signal to your fellow instructors who are, remember, your fellow guards, that you are no longer watching your class and that they need to adopt them. Beyond that, it's not very different from a regular guard situation. I think Sunday we only have 2 people on, but apart from that, you will have 3 or 4 people, which is about as staffed as the Y ever gets. So if there's an urgent situation in the pool, then signal with your double tweet. Every minute that you're instructing, be aware that an emergency situation may arise. That's always a possibility wherever people are. And be somewhat aware of where your fellow instructors are. I'm not saying you need to be watching them. Of course, you need to be watching your own class, but keep some level of awareness of where they are and think about how quickly can I exit my class, or if so and so beside me in this pool or so and so far away from me over in that pool needed to perform a rescue suddenly, how could I best assist them? How quickly could I get to their class to assist them? So, if you need to go in the water, double tweet, scream at your class to get out, go in to catch your victim, and trust that your other instructors are going to exit with their classes and supervise that entire deck area. From there, everything is essentially the same. You determine how major the situation is, you determine if the entire pool needs to be cleared. Lessons are not a priority over top of an emergency situation. The pool area may need to be evacuated and everyone locked up in the change rooms. EMS may need to be contacted. It's really all the same. It's just that added component of transitioning from instructor to guard situation, but shouldn't be too complicated, so long as you're mentally prepared that that's something you may need to do. Keep in mind, there are almost always people on deck. They are bystanders. They are fellow caregivers. They will want to assist you if you need additional assistance. They will, I would presume, so long as you make it clear what you want, they're going to help encourage their kids to get their butts out of the pool quickly. If you need someone else to call 911, I can't really think of a situation where one of the guards wouldn't be capable of calling 911, but I don't know, maybe a guard themselves gets injured, something like that. You can certainly instruct one of the caregivers to call 911 or press the emergency button on the wall if you feel you need more support than the 3-guard team that's at your disposal, or even just asking a bystander to help clear everybody out. You can certainly do that. When you instruct, you need the equipment of a guard. It's a little bit different because I don't want to see anybody swimming around in the pool with the kids with their tube behind them. I don't want to see any kids getting tangled up in that leash unintentionally or yanking on that tube like a toy. But you should have an aid with you nearby at the very least. I like a noodle myself. You might prefer a life jacket, but have something nearby so that you have something to rescue with. It's also super convenient to sit on that while you teach. It helps you relax a little bit more rather than giving instructions while you're doing an egg beater in the deep end. So please do have an aid nearby of some sort. Have a pack nearby. I'm not going to insist or even suggest that we actually wear the packs in the water, because I just think they're going to get horribly soggy and potentially moldy and gross. And probably the morning guards aren't really going to appreciate the wet packs from the evening before and so forth. But when you start your shift, grab your clipboard, grab your pen, grab your attendance sheets and your Ziploc bags, and grab your whistle, tie it on you, and grab your pack and hang it somewhere nearby. Usually when I'm on shift, I hang a pack near the spinal board on the hooks and sit one on the old diving board supports near the deep end, so that it's accessible if something or other happens. Like, usually these are minor incidents, right? We have a a bleeding nose. We've had 2 of those in the last 2 weeks. Or we have some little cut on the foot or something that needs a band-aid. So it's just good to have this nearby and be prepared to cooperate with one another. You're not alone on the deck. You're not in a bubble with your class. You're still with your team. So behave like a team. If I haven't addressed any emergency questions that you might have, if you've thought of something that I haven't, please do bring it to my attention, and we'll communicate that out to the group. Okay, let's talk a little bit about logistics of sharing space and equipment and coordinating lessons. This so far is not a particularly complex issue because we don't have a lot of classes running in the pools. We don't have a lot of staff available to instruct. I'd like to hire more. And because of the short notice with registration and whatnot, we weren't able to give members and public a lot of time to file in and sign up for swim lessons. So I'm hoping to see an increase in the upcoming 2 sessions. Right now in the pool, basically, there's usually only 3 lessons going on. And I've scheduled it in such a way that typically there's 1 going on in the baby pool and 2 in the other pool, or vice versa, but never even 3 in the same pool. There might be 1 scenario where we have that happening, but generally not. So you have between 8 and 10 kids in a lesson. There's a lot of space in the big pool to coordinate that between 2 classes. In fact, you have a maximum of 8 to 10 kids in a lesson. Some of you may only have 1 kid in some lessons, or 2 or 3. So there's lots of room. There's less need for coordination than you can expect in the future. I would book as many, I kid you not, as many as 9 simultaneous lessons in this facility. That is absolutely doable. But you'd see a different setup. So you may have noticed that I have purchased and built some odd-looking buoy lines, which will allow us to divide the pool into widths instead of into lengths. I find this much more conducive to the lesson environment for a couple reasons. So one, it allows us more space. Not more distance for swimming, but more space for the class to spread out. So sometimes I've seen some of you have like a 10 kid class, and you're over here. This by the way is supposed to look like our pool. This is the baby pool here. This is the big pool, the lane rope, the steps. Okay, so here you are with your 10 kid class, and you've got like 7 kids along here and 2 or 3 around the corner, and they're kind of, these 2 here kind of kicking each other as they're working on their kicks on the wall. But if you're along this side of the pool, you got a lot more space to stretch out. So that's why one of the reasons why I like to divide the pool into widths. Also, there are a lot of, we don't have a whole lot of like star 4, 5, 6. Very few kids are interested in perfecting at that level. Star 1 through 4s, dolphin swimmer, all of those, I'm finding the endurance to be really bad. So a lot of them can't even do a whole length often. When I say, okay, let's do a length of whip kick, and then you'll do flutter kick on the way back, like they're dying. They get halfway, they're grabbing the lane rope, they're grabbing the side of the wall. Studies performed by the Life Saving Society have shown that kids develop physical skills more quickly and retain them better, improve more quickly when they're doing shorter distances more times than when they're doing longer distances less times. So if I want to teach front crawl, it's better for me to have the kids do 2 widths and then I correct them and give them a little rest, and then do another 2 widths and I correct them and give them a little rest, and say do that to a total of 8 widths than if I have them just do 2 or 3 lengths. When part of the length is not up to par in terms of the stroke, so maybe they only get to, I don't know, the flags or the halfway point before their stroke kind of starts to get all crooked, and their body position starts falling below the horizontal point and their arms stop really recovering entirely above the surface. So then you're no longer reinforcing the correct form. So they're not creating that memory properly. And the kid gets frustrated and feels a little bit unsuccessful and starts droning and whining about doing any more work. So I really do find that as much as possible, drilling your class in widths across the pool is more effective than drilling them in lengths across the pool. So you may notice that sometimes I put up buoy lines, or sometimes I just leave all the lane ropes out all together, so that there's more freedom in orienting and setting up formations for our classes. Yes, around the star 4 through 6 level, they should be doing some practice of endurance lengths, but I really truly would not bother with that unless they're already fairly strong as swimmers. Like if they can't get through 2 lengths of front crawl and 2 lengths of back crawl without stopping, I wouldn't bother drilling them in lengths, drill them in widths. That was a bit of a tangent. I was talking about how to share space. Right, so maybe one class is doing lengths for an endurance swim, but there's also a shallow end class there. So there's a little bit of coordination needed there, right? So let's say, I don't know, Andy's class is 5'6" and she needs this lane over here so she can do lengths for 8 or 10 in a row because she's doing an endurance swim. So she could say to Michaela over here, who's got an otter seal, like a shallow end class, is it, oh, I lost my mouse. Come back, mouse. Sorry. Is it okay if you guys I'm going to use this space for, the next 8 minutes. Can you work over here? And then so Michaela can kind of drill her kids as coming back and forth between this lane rope while Andy has this space. And then after that first 8 minutes or whatever, then Andy's going off to practice surface supports and dives and stuff like that over in the deep end. And now Michaela's free to spread out over here with her class as she sees fit. Or likewise, maybe there's a diver, or maybe there's 2 otter seal classes going on at the same time and they're both a little bit larger. And so rather than squashing them side by side here in this pool, they can alternate one in this pool, one in this pool, doing certain skills and then switch. So that takes communication with one another. Like I just said, you're not in a bubble. Communicate with each other about what you're doing in your lessons and what space that you need. Same thing with equipment. And we have a pretty big set of noodles and weights and flutter boards, thanks to the Aquafit ladies. So far, equipment doesn't seem to be a limiting factor, except with the life jackets. Personally, I never use them because it just drives me bonkers to have some kids in the water wing kind and some kids in the collared kind. I'm very disgruntled about the collection of life jackets that we have on deck, and I would like to get some more. They are quite expensive though. So I don't use them, but if you're going to use them, that's absolutely fine. I've definitely seen 2 or 3 of you making that a component of your lessons, but just be courteous about that with the other staff. Recognize that you might not be the only one who wants to use those life jackets. So after you're done with them, so where's my mouse? So I'm over here where the hooks are. Oops, sorry about that. I'm over here where the hooks are. I'm getting the kids ready with their life jackets. We're all hooked up. Now we're going to go in here and we're all going to paddle around for a while and we're done. And now I'm going to practice some other stuff here and I don't need the life jackets. Okay, but don't just dump them on this side of the pool in a heap as a tripping hazard. Have the kids walk back, unclip, hang all the life jackets back up, and then continue with what you're doing. So they're ready for that next instructor and they're not a tripping hazard for anybody else on the deck. You'll note that McKenna or I will set up the equipment here between the pools and sometimes up here near the diving board stumps. That's what I'm going to call them. And that's for the convenience of the instructor, so that if you have forgotten you wanted to use the noodles for a lesson, or you just got an inspiration for them suddenly, you're not having to exit with your class and walk all the way over to the cabinet, or you're not tempted to leave your class alone and go running off to grab the equipment. Everything is in the middle, so you can usually just kind of hop your hips up and lean over and grab it, or easily have your class exit, grab it, and still keep, you stay in the pool and still keeping them safe, keeping them in your line of sight. But this is only effective if you return the equipment to these spaces during the lessons. So even if you do set, you say you take a set of flutterboards and then you just set them aside all over the deck, as you're having the kids exit, have them grab their flutterboards and put them back in a pile, or you grab them as the kids are exiting. Just make sure all the kids are out of the water. And as you're trailing that line, scoop up the flutterboards or weights or whatever you use and stick them back in the center so that they're ready for the next lesson set. So as I say, this is not very pronounced right now, but as the lessons grow and the pool gets crowded, you'll find it's very important to communicate with your fellow instructors. I might even need to establish a chart with zones and make a little bit of a schedule. Go. Oh, come on. There we go. I wanted to talk a little bit about the Y Swim program because we have several of you, myself included, coming from the Life Saving Society background. So it used to be Red Cross. Life Saving Society did not have a swim program at all. Life Saving Society's mission is drowning prevention, and every single one of their programs and efforts is centered around that mission. So they did not have swim lessons up until, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago, maybe 10, I think 5. Red Cross ran water safety lessons. And their program, being developed at a similar time, like back in the 1800s, was quite similar to the YMCA's program. But I do have to say, having compared all three now, the YMCA is the most comprehensive one I've seen. And I don't necessarily mean that as a compliment, just an observation. So some of you have only been taught through the life-saving program, which is beautiful. It's a simple 6-lesson set. It sticks to the basics that you would use for staying alive and lifeguarding and rescuing. So you have front crawl, back crawl, breaststroke, and then the life-saving kicks of whip kick, egg beater, and scissor. And that's pretty much it.
There's some fundamentals around that, some floats, and there's also surface supports and entries, but it's all pretty basic. In Red Cross, so some of you are from the Red Cross program, you're old enough to have done Red Cross and then transitioned over to the Life Saving Society's program. So you may be somewhat familiar with what was a 10-level program in Red Cross. And that was a little bit more involved. There was some inclusion of basic synchro skills and like handstands and rolls and stuff. And some additional strokes. I think they had elementary back and side stroke in there. Red Cross has adopted and abandoned the butterfly stroke a couple times in the last 20 years. And then some of you have only ever come through the Y. So we have sort of a different set of backgrounds among our instructors. And we also have this chart on the wall that says it's a conversion chart. And I think this is absolutely hilarious because I have no idea how you can say that star 5-6, which is the like last levels in the Y swim program, is equivalent to swimmer 6 when someone who is achieving their swimmer 6 level will be able to do front, back, and breaststroke and has never heard of elementary backstroke or butterfly or water polo skills or synchro skills or any of that stuff. Conversely, at the Y, when you finish the level 6, you're supposed to have water polo skills, you're supposed to be able to flip turn and do proper competitive swim starts, and you're supposed to be able to do several forms of sculling and a few basic synchronized swimming moves. The idea that these two things are translatable is just really comical to me. For those of you who are used to that simplified life-saving program, you may find the Y program a little bit more difficult to navigate. And on top of this set of lessons at the Y, which is, I think, 10, otter, seal, dolphin, swimmer, and then star 1 through 6. Well, technically we have star 7, but it's synonymous with bronze star, so I'm ignoring it. So yeah, 10 lessons. Because that's so comprehensive and because we don't have enough staff and enough registrants, for years our branch of the Y has been combining these lessons. So almost every one of you will be teaching a split class for almost every class. So that definitely introduces a layer of complexity, which I'm trying my very best to make as simple to navigate for you as possible. And I thought kind of giving you this idea would be helpful. So understanding the stages of swimming and how that relates to our levels. So we start by acclimatizing. Sorry, I keep losing sight of my mouse. We start by acclimatizing to the water. That's just like learning to relax in the water, learning to go underwater, blowing bubbles, assisted stuff. Then we have basic buoyancy and propulsion independently. So doing our floats by ourselves, glides, basic kicking, rhythmic breathing, maybe some dog paddle. Then you move forward into actually swimming. So we're learning to coordinate the arms and the legs together, rudimentary front and back crawl, some more rolling and side breathing and stuff so that it all works together in a continuous way, and then transitioning into the deep water and learning to support ourselves on the surface through treading, egg beater, floats and glides in the deep end, that sort of thing. Now that we can swim and handle ourselves in deep water, we're looking to learn different ways to swim, and finding what works best with our body, sort of finding our strength, and learning to get faster and more efficient at it so that we can do it for a longer time period. So here's where we're introducing, or rather learning breaststroke, elementary, side stroke, introducing dolphin kick in preparation for butterfly, and introducing other things like sculling and some interesting water polo things I've been reading about. I don't play at all. I don't even watch the game. I had no idea that they apparently do back crawl arms with whip kicking as part of their maneuvers. Interesting stuff. And of course, more entries at this point too, fancier entries. As we come into deep water, we learn about diving and diving below the surface and swimming underwater, increased breath control. And then at last, we're just perfecting the whole thing. Lots more endurance, more speed and efficiency. This is where we finally finish up teaching butterfly and the most advanced skills. And when they're done here, they should be ready for their bronzes, ready for those rescue skills, essentially ready to become a lifeguard if that's what they want to do, or swim competitively if that's what they want to do. Not that I'm suggesting we're going to produce competitive level swimmers. We're not. It takes a lot of hours of practice, but the thought is that this person should be able to join a swim team and learn to thrive on that team. So those are kind of the 5 stages of swimming. And then if you look under here, I'm not going to go through it all, but you're welcome to pause the video. Just a note over here, this should say diver, not glider. I apologize. But so you can sort of get the idea of which levels coordinate with which stages. So just a quick note I want to make here that the bobber, floater, glider, diver are all preschool levels. They're all quite similar to the otter, seal, and dolphin levels. It's just that they're intended for different ages, for different heights. That's really the only difference. And the reason the otter seal has been coupled together and the bobber hasn't been coupled with anything this session is because I expect older children to be more coordinated and more capable of learning at a quicker rate and getting farther in the 10 weeks than younger children. But understanding if you're teaching an otter seal class, you may absolutely have kids that are still terrified of the water and like can't even float at all, and that's exactly where they're supposed to be as long as they're tall enough for the big pool. Stroke charts is the next thing I want to discuss. These are in the office. You're welcome to look at them. They're in those folders near the lockers. The reason I haven't handed them out for you is because I am changing them. Because we're coupling the lessons, there's like 17 skills on this chart. Oops, sorry about that. So if you have a dolphin swimmer class and I give you, what's that, like 35, 36 skills to work through in 10 weeks for a total of 5 hours, there's just no way you're getting all of that done. And keeping track of these different kids on different stroke sheets, it's too much. It's going to just result in crappy lessons. So what I'm doing is trying to extract the most important elements from each of the sheets in a coupled lesson, and then amalgamate the two sheets together. So like just one set of, say, 15 skills, or if there are more skills, they'll be highlighted which ones pertain to which level. So regardless, you'll be teaching some back crawl to this class here, and how well they do the back crawl will determine, which skill they completed. So you'd see back crawl 5 meters and back crawl 15 meters. And if they can only get to, I don't know, 10 meters, then they've only completed that first skill, like the standard of that first skill. So once the end of the lesson set comes, you just have to look through this sheet and say, okay, this kid completed all the skills highlighted in yellow, which means he's completed his dolphin level. He did not complete all the skills that I highlighted in orange, so he hasn't achieved his swimmer level. So he's going to get his dolphin sticker, but next session or next time he comes, he's going to come back to this same bi-level class, and hopefully he'll make it through his swimmer badge the next time. If the kid completes all the skills, they get both badges. If they don't complete any of the skill sets, then they don't get any badges. When you're deciding on how to evaluate kids, I want everybody to remember that this is not an NLS or Bronze Cross type of a format where we are doing strictly summative evaluation, which means like an exam at the end. We're doing formative evaluation. That means you're forming your opinion of the level of this swimmer as you go. I don't bother doing this until at least week 3 or 4. There's no sense in evaluating till you've introduced all the skills. All the skills for a lesson should have been introduced to the students at least once by halfway through the lesson set. And then after that, it just becomes repetitive practicing, and you have lots of time to complete your evaluations in the second half of the lesson set. If I have decided that I am going to mark this skill as complete, this one right here that says back glide, kicking arms at sides, 10 meters. I'm going to make sure I understand that skill. On the back of this sheet, there will be an explanation of each skill, like what specifically you're looking for. So this one might say body rolls side to side or something like that. So if I decide this skill is completed, that means this kid has demonstrated this skill exactly, like confidently. He's done it for 10 meters. He's not dying out around 8 meters and barely making 10 meters. He's doing it 10 meters strongly. He could probably go 11 or 12. And I've seen him do it 3 or 4 times. So it's not that he just kind of barely managed to do it, squeak it on the last day. That's not a complete skill. You'll want to establish a system for monitoring those 3 times. So you have the kid's name written up here, and this column dedicated to him, and each skill that you have to mark off 3 times. I want to share McKenna's system here, which I think is just adorable. So he likes to make a smiley face. And so on this skill, the first time I saw this skill performed correctly, I would make one eye. And then the second time I'd make the next eye. And then the third time I'd make a smile. So a full smiley face means the skill is complete. If you don't like that system, I don't care what you use. Personally, I used to put a dot in each corner and then I'd put a C in the middle when it was complete. I've seen some of the old sheets just have 3 lines. I don't care. Just establish it for yourself in a way that you can come back to and understand. And there shouldn't be a mad rush at the end of the session. Like, it's week 9 and you've got this sheet out and you're making everybody do every skill because you don't have any of the stuff filled in. Like, fill it in as you go. You may be able to do this during your lessons. Do not attempt to do this in between your lessons. Do not make your next class late because you're fiddling around with paperwork from your previous lesson. But do it at the end of your lesson block, or if you have a gap in your lessons when you don't have anyone to teach. Take the time to fill this in. Every time you teach for an evening or for a Saturday or a Sunday, take a few minutes to fill out. You'll only ever have 4 forms to fill out at the end of your lessons. Keep these sheets at the pool tucked into your folders with your attendance, please. Do not take them home as homework. Trust me, you'll forget them there. It's a terrible thing to get to the end of the lesson set and realize you've lost someone's stroke chart, and you teach like 80 kids in the week and you can't quite remember whether that kid should have passed or should be repeating. You can't remember if they're getting a sticker or not. It's just really frustrating. And if you don't deliver a sticker to that kid, or I think every kid will get a sticker. It'll just be like you'll get a see you next time sticker if you didn't complete your levels. But the point is that caregiver wants to know what level they are supposed to enroll their kid in next time around. So you have to be able to deliver that judgment for them on that last day. And God forbid you're sick on the last day or need coverage for your shifts. As I've said, your report cards had better be done. We're simplifying the report cards. I'm going to have you just hand out a sticker with basically a little tag that states 1 star and 1 wish. So, great job on all your hard work blowing bubbles. Remember to keep your face in when you front float. And that's all it's going to say. And then whatever the next level you want them to be enrolled in. This is all it's going to say. To keep it simple, all of those things better be completed on week 9. I will absolutely remind everybody of this. But the point is, if you keep your stroke charts at the pool, and you keep them up to date, then even if you get sick or something and someone else has to step in, they're not starting from scratch, which is just absolutely unfair to them. And we absolutely do not want parents waiting around and kids waiting around through December screaming at Cassie and I saying, I don't know what level my child's supposed to be enrolled in for January. We are not going to use that SwimGen site or whatever it's called. I looked through that site and I hate it. We're not using that. We are going the paper route for the time being. At the end of a session, and I'll remind you of this, I will have you take a picture or at least submit all of these stroke charts to me, so I can take pictures and stick them into a digital folder. That way any parent who whines that we haven't given out a full report card, I would be able to give them a copy of the stroke chart with everybody else's information blacked out so that they can see the specifics if they want to. So despite all this evaluation and coordination and preparation for emergencies, let us never forget to keep things tons of fun, especially with our older kids. We tend to be not too bad at fun with the younger kids, or even really, really good at it, because it's easy. They want to have fun. They simply won't enter if it doesn't seem like it's going to be fun. They will constantly, constantly ask you to play with the toys and play games and things like that. And they get more excited about little things. You're like, hey, look at those stickers on the ceiling. And they just get so excited about it. They get so excited about the splash of jumping in the pool. I just find little kids much easier. But as the kids get older, they get crankier about swimming lessons. A lot of them are just here because their parents force them. They whine a lot. They don't want to work hard. And I think we might be largely um, largely to blame for that, because as the skills get more involved, we play less games. We tend to just say, okay, well, let's work hard for the next 25 minutes, and then you guys will have earned yourself, 5 minutes in the hot tub or 5 minutes of basketball in the baby pool. Um, but we have to remember that we're still dealing with sometimes like just 10, 11, 12-year-olds. They don't necessarily think that's a great deal, or they don't necessarily have the patience to complete the deal. I'm reminded of this video I saw on a TED Talks where this guy was testing self-control in children, and he was telling these kids that you can have this marshmallow, or if you wait 15 minutes and you don't touch it, then you can have 2 marshmallows. And then he would leave the room, and there were all these videos of these kids like just staring longingly at the marshmallow, and most of them just ate it like 15 minutes. So to tell a kid, yeah, 25 minutes of stuff that's not very fun for just 5 minutes of stuff that is, it's not a great selling feature. Not that I haven't done that, but it's not a great selling feature. It's, if we are up to the challenge, it's much more effective if we can create play-based learning scenarios for those older kids. So I might do something like, I'm thinking, okay, I want to work on whip kick. I'm looking at it. It kind of sucks. It's asymmetrical. I'm getting some scissor kicks in there. I got a lot of pointed toes. It's not too effective. I know that these kids need to flex their feet. So instead of just telling them that, I'm gonna say, hey, let's do a relay. And I'm going to set them up at a couple points around my lesson space and give the first kid a pair of rings, have him put them on his ankles and say, okay, you got to keep those rings on, and you have to do whip kick over to the next person and then trade off the rings, or maybe drop the rings off your feet and they have to surface dive for those rings and then come up, put them on their feet and whip kick to the next, have some kind of relay or obstacle course laid out like that. So what you tell them the goal is doesn't actually have anything to do with your goal of teaching them that aspect or that progression of the skill of keeping their feet flexed. Do I expect everybody to be able to do this for every little thing? No, it's pretty difficult, but do try to figure that out as you go, and as you get good ideas about it, definitely share them with the group. I'll get a shared drive going or a Jamboard or something, so that we can all share our little tips and tricks for motivating kids. Do come to me anytime. I do have quite a bit of educational experience in and out of the pool. I can even help you with all your university papers. That's an aside, but do come to me if you're having a tough time with any lesson, or even if you just feel like you're stagnating. You're like, oh my God, I have like 6 dolphin swimmer classes this week, and I just feel like I'm doing the same thing. I feel like a broken record. I need some fresh game ideas. By all means, come to me. I have a pretty good repertoire in my brain, and some really good books from old Red Cross systems of just fun activities and games. I think that is it for this session. Yep, it is. Goody goody gumdrops. Okay, so if you have any further questions or concerns, please do come to me at any time. Talk to me, email me, leave something in my mailbox, what have you. Do send me an email, or actually maybe I'll even make a quiz for you guys to complete, so that I know that you've completed this module. And happy teaching!